Welcome to today's Explainer. We are unpacking two totally distinct but honestly incredibly consequential themes we pulled straight from recent political transcripts. It's like looking at two different universes of discourse. On one hand, we've got this intensely personal, often super heated domestic rhetoric about the mental fitness of our leaders, and then on the other hand, we're diving into the stark macroeconomic realities of international trade and energy dependency. Putting these side by side, it gives us this fascinating window into how political stakes are debated and leveraged, both at home and on the global stage. So here is exactly how we're going to navigate today's deep dive. Number 1, decoding political transcripts. 2, the mental fitness debate. 3, the Goldwater rule. 4, US-Canada trade tensions. And finally, 5, the energy superpower dynamic. We're moving all the way from the deeply personal to the massively international, so let's get right to it. Section 1. Decoding political transcripts, anchoring the discourse. Before we can really analyze the arguments, we've got to ground ourselves in the actual text. What we're looking at is a raw, entirely unfiltered transcript detailing the domestic debate around a president's mental acuity. It is the literal transcription of a conversation. You know, it's messy, it's direct, and it pulls absolutely no punches. In our current political climate, transcripts like this one act as the unvarnished record of the battles happening in the public square. We aren't looking at some polished teleprompter speech here. This is the spontaneous, highly charged rhetoric that really defines everyday political combat. Section 2, the mental fitness debate, rhetoric versus reality. Let's see how this raw text builds into the escalating conversation we're seeing about cognitive decline in political leaders. I mean, this is a topic that has completely moved from the fringes of commentary straight to center stage. The text definitely doesn't shy away from severe claims. Observers who are questioning a leader's mental stability and motor functions are using some seriously intense terminology. Phrases like word salad, accusations of losing track of thought, and even going as far as claiming sociopathic traits. It is a fascinating, if intense, look at how political opponents are increasingly weaponizing the language of psychology and cognitive health. Policy disagreements are literally being bypassed in favor of questioning fundamental mental competence. But directly countering those claims, the transcript also captures a very staunch defense. Specifically, it cites perfect scores on standard cognitive assessments. You know, the ones involving identifying animals like a camel or an elephant. So in response to that intense scrutiny we just talked about, the defense presented in the text is equally specific. The argument points to successfully completing these clinical cognitive tests as proof of mental sharpness. What we're really seeing here is the new battleground of public opinion. Clinical language is being used as a weapon, and clinical tests are being held up as a shield. Section 3. The Goldwater Rule, Ethics and Observation. Now, to properly contextualize all these back and forth claims, we have to look at the ethical frameworks that actually govern medical professionals. Because when public discourse relies this heavily on medical terminology, the medical community itself gets dragged into some incredibly tricky waters. The transcript specifically invokes something called the Goldwater Rule. This is an American Psychiatric Association guideline that serves as a hard professional boundary. Basically, it prohibits psychiatrists from armchair diagnosing politicians through their television screens. It's a crucial reminder that no matter how public a figure is, ethical medical practice requires an actual, in-person examination before any diagnosis can be thrown around. Furthermore, the source brings up the 25th Amendment. And wow, this elevates the conversation from just throwing insults to discussing potential constitutional crises. The transcript ties these accusations of cognitive decline directly to the 25th Amendment, which is the mechanism for removing a president deemed unable to do the job. It really underscores that when we're talking about a leader's mental fitness, we aren't just engaging in political theater, we are ultimately talking about the legal and functional continuity of the government itself. Moving on to Section 4, US-Canada trade tensions, a macroeconomic pivot. Okay, let's pivot sharply away from the ethics of domestic politics and shift our lens to our second transcript. We are moving from the psychology of leadership to the cold, hard numbers of global economics, specifically focusing on the high-stakes world of North American trade. This document pulls us right into the thick of the dialogue between U.S. tariff threats and Canadian economic strategy. Just like our first transcript, it captures a real-world clash, but the weapons here, they aren't political insults. They're tariffs, trade agreements, and supply chains. It's an absolutely fascinating look at the diplomatic chess match that kicks off when long-standing economic partnerships get tested. So, on one side of this text, we have the pressure of U.S. tariff threats, which traditionally hold immense weight given the sheer volume of cross-border trade. But on the other side, Canada is actively diversifying, They are leveraging over 50 new global trade partnerships. 50! They aren't just sitting around waiting to see what happens. They're aggressively pushing into the Indo-Pacific, establishing solid ties with Southeast Asian nations through ASEAN, and locking in massive trans-Pacific trade agreements like the CPTPP. The goal is simple: lessen their reliance on a single market. Honestly, it is a textbook example of geopolitical hedging. Section 5. The Energy Superpower Dynamic: Leverage and Supply. Trade partnerships are one thing, sure, but Canada's ultimate counter-leverage actually lies in raw, essential resources. Just look at the sheer scale of what is at risk here. We are talking about a deeply integrated $150 billion bilateral energy relationship between the US and Canada. A number that large tells us right away that this isn't a one-sided relationship where one nation holds all the cards. $150 billion energy trade is a massive mutual entanglement. Disrupting something like this doesn't just sting the exporter, it would send absolute shockwaves right through the importer's economy as well. And when we talk about leverage, the data presented is crystal clear. Canada supplies a staggering 60% of all crude oil imported by the United States. 60%! So, despite its own robust domestic production, the US still relies heavily on imported crude, and the vast majority of it comes straight from its northern neighbor. The transcript uses this reality to completely reframe the power dynamic of these trade tensions. You simply can't replace 60% of your energy imports overnight, and that fact alone gives Canada a tremendously powerful seat at the negotiating table. Beyond just oil, Canada possesses some massive, totally future-proofed leverage. We're talking abundant critical minerals, which are absolutely essential for modern tech and defense. They have sustainable, clean aluminum production that perfectly addresses growing environmental standards in manufacturing. They're expanding nuclear power through small modular reactors, or SMRs, positioning them beautifully for the future energy grid. And crucially, the completion of the new Trans Mountain pipeline provides a direct physical route to export to the Pacific. They can essentially bypass the US market entirely if they need to. That physical infrastructure perfectly backs up the whole diversification strategy we were just talking about. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to consider how these two vastly different realms of political discourse, the deeply personal and the fiercely economic, will ultimately shape the future of North American stability. We started our deep dive looking at intense, almost clinical attacks on leadership fitness, navigating things like constitutional amendments and the Goldwater Rule. Then, we zoomed way out to witness a $150 billion geopolitical chess match, where critical minerals and oil pipelines dictate the true balance of power. Both of these extreme realities are found right there in the everyday transcripts of our political world. It really makes you wonder, when the dust finally settles, does true power lie in the loudest domestic rhetoric, or in the silent, steady flow of the resources that literally power our world? Keep that in mind the next time you see these headlines crossing your feed. Thanks for joining me.